I was just wondering, what did you gain from like your goth experience, and did the goth like add value to your professional career, or like would you recommend that we do goth as well?
I could go if you want me to. Personally, I feel like Goff, I think Miranda mentioned this, and I think everybody mentioned this at some point, that it gives you realistic work reality. Like the pressure is on, the risks are on, you get real feedback. So I think, I mean, when I was doing Goff, there wasn't many opportunity to do one semester. So I highly recommend, at least if you can, just to do like the one semester part, because you don't only like learn how to solve problems like mentioned, but also you get to taste like what it feels like to work at a high risk environment. I mean, it's still, you don't get like, you don't get fired or something, but you still can get like bad grades, but you learn from it. So that's one thing. It gives you realistic work. It gives you, second thing is like, gives you realistic feedback. And the third thing is really understanding how to work with people. Like you might be right now in a group and you're like, oh my God, my teammates actually suck, but you never know. Maybe you're the person who doesn't know how to communicate. And that's something you get to learn when you go through the Goff experience. Like, oh, I could be better at this when working with people. And other thing is like, you can bring it so many times in interviews, like, oh, I did this, I did that, because you usually go through two different projects in a semester. So you can bring that up in interviews. Like, one time I was working on this project and this happened. So I highly recommend it. And also like Bonita is a huge resource, and just to getting to talk to her is amazing, and so much to learn from her. So I highly recommend personally.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with what Rama was saying. First, like Bonita, huge advocate. I like talked to her last week, so I still stay in touch with her, and she'll always be your ally if you come in, you work hard, and you care, and she cares deeply about our students. But I think one of the biggest things about Goff is you kind of really learn how to build a narrative in the business sense, or like a story. So you like do these presentations, and you're kind of building the story of, what can be changed or what can happen for this company or nonprofit organization you're working with. And that's like fairly important in the business world. I know that's one thing, especially like for my career. Basically, that's what investment bankers are, is we are selling the story of a company, and whether that's to like equity investors or people are going to invest in an IPO, or someone that's going to buy the company outright. So understanding how to build a narrative and tell it well is super helpful, and something that like most people don't have when they come into this role. They're like really good at Excel, they're really good at finance, but they're not really good at like telling you what that means or like what you're working with. So I'd say like absolutely do it. And the last thing I'd say about it is it like, again, it's just the touch of realism. You work with companies or nonprofits in Goff where you have to like, in all your business classes, you're told like, oh, you just pull this lever, like we can increase sales by XYZ or whatever. But once you like actually interact with these companies and learn like their limitations or what they actually want to do, or have to understand their perspective, you understand that like you can't just apply textbook solutions. You have to be much more creative in like how you think about what companies are capable of doing, and what you will ultimately be doing inside of a business, which is being cognizant of that.
I think, yeah, all these points have been great. The only other thing besides, shout out to Bonita, an amazing professor, just great to be able to learn from her. So the only other thing is sort of the interdisciplinary aspect of Goff was really unique for me. Like in the student investment fund, everybody's a finance major. You're working with them all the time. And that's great for what the student investment fund is. But, in the real world, you're interacting with people who didn't always study the same thing as you. So I, as a research analyst, it's my job to really learn as much as I can about a company. And then when I pitch it to a portfolio manager to try to convince them to buy it in the fund, I have to be able to explain things as clearly as possible to them, and they might not understand, you know, the specific industry acronyms or things like that. And so working with the team where not everybody's speaking the same language, in terms of, you know, what they know and what they've been trained in, that's, you know, a skill that's really important and tough to learn if you don't practice.
I echo everything that's already been said. The interdisciplinary aspect of it was huge for me. I was one of like 2 marketing students in our program. We had tons of finance and accounting, and understanding how to work between different groups. Everybody has areas that add value, but given real circumstances, real situations, that you have the opportunity to help a business or an organization, and understanding how you can add value within that group was huge. And it translates directly to a workplace where you get in and you might feel like you look around the room and there's a lot of people you look at and you think, man, they know so much more than me. They're so much smarter than me. But at the end of the day, everybody has a unique perspective and something to add. So if you're considering, or you're on the fence, or if you're not even considering it, consider it. And like it's been said multiple times already tonight, don't say no to yourself. Make somebody else tell you no. Just do it.
That was